This is the dawn of a new era in British karting. Over 550 drivers in 12 classes competing for victory over 18 race weekends. This is the Motorsport UK British Kart Championships.
Chris Whilton takes the flag.
Going to be enough for
TKM's next champion.
to win again in TKM Extreme.
For rounds 11 and 12 of the British Kart Championships this 2019 season, the conclusion of it, we had a chat to cutting-edge driver in the Honda Cadets, Whilton Simmons, about how his championship has gone this year.
I'm looking to finish my season with a win or something like that, or a top 3. The season's been a little bit unlucky with Fullbeck. We didn't finish very well, but otherwise that, we finished really well within the top 5 most weekends, so yeah. My weekend's been really good. Putting it at the front, finishing first and second in my heats is really good. Starting on the front row for the finals, so hopefully we can pick up some more points and challenge for the championships.
Time for race 15 of the weekend then. It's the second final today for the Honda Cadets and the conclusion of their 2019 campaign. Unfortunately, in comparison to the Junior TKM, it won't be quite a championship spectacle. That's pretty much been wrapped up by Mitchell Gibbons anyway. But we can still enjoy this final bit of racing for each of these drivers who are out on track. We have a huge volume of karts as always, and they will have the standing starts, which isn't perhaps always orthodox for these young drivers. Not every circuit I've seen, but they opt for it here. And the number 23 will line up on pole. Whilton Simmons, he starts alongside Oscar Tooten on the front row. The Project 1 racing kart on the outside line with Connor Duncan, the Scot, on row 2 alongside Wesley Swain. Zach Drummond, Freddie Hull on row 3, Isakovs, Greg, Hobson and Islin rounding out the top 10. They will soon see those lights come on that screen, and they will know it's very close to their final 15 minutes of racing action. It comes here at Whilton Mill Kart Circuit to conclude their 2019 season of the British Kart Championships. Simmons versus Tooten on the front row. The lights go red on the screen and they go out. Very quick start there, and instantly trying to get as quick a getaway as they possibly can from pole. Whilton Simmons as they head down towards Crook for the first time. See how they all manage to get around there. Huge volume of karts into not a huge amount of road on the track, but they do manage to get around unscathed on this occasion. Into the Christmas corner they go, right at the very top of the circuit. It seems that it may have been Tooten who's had the better start there in the Project 1 racing kart, but they'll head down towards Ashby for the first time racing. Very used to this corner by now then, but there's contact between the top 2. They do both drop back several positions. Got over the rear bumper there, a bit too close for comfort for the leading duo, but they'll drop back a fair few places. This a very enjoyable race to watch, I'm sure is going to be. But the GP plated Tooten takes the lead then, having a mix-up with a few karts a bit further down the order now. Whilton Simmons, I think it may have been, and Connor Duncan, the Scot, in the Heinz Racing kart. There's 3 Heinz Racing drivers in a row off the grid. Let's see as they come across the line what it's like this time. Oscar Tooten at the front, but Wesley Swain gaining 2 positions. He's up into second place now, only 0.1 of a second behind. Connor Duncan in third, fourth Jack Hobson, Freddie Hull fifth, Zach Drummond, Whilton Simmons, Gustav Skuzakov and Jaden Gregg all down in ninth. They've all dropped several positions as a result of that incident, I can only assume, trying to avoid that. There's a black and white flag that's being displayed. That is for the number 29 who receives that caution there. Still got an awful lot of time left to go, only the 1 lap completed by these Honda Cadets. They won't get as many done as the TKM, as the skies go slightly ominously grey ahead of us. Hopefully that won't turn into anything too dramatic for all these cadet drivers who, of course, sort of all opted for slicks. It's been nothing but dry over the course of this weekend. Nearly 3 abreast across the line though. Tooten gets swamped by the drivers around him. Will have to concede down to third place. Going into the first couple of corners, Crook is met with some real drama as once again the leading few karts head up towards the top bend, Christmas corner, and there's another overtake there. And that means that there's a few more position swaps, which I'll be able to update you at the end of the lap when they come across the line to confirm where they are on the track. But it's worked out really well for the driver who's out at the front at the moment as they approach the middle section of the circuit. Ozies is next for each of these drivers as the yellow flag waves for that particular sector. That's for a kart who stopped on the back straight at the very start of the back straight. Not in too much of a compromising position, thankfully. But Wesley Swain was in the front of that three-way battle last time across the line, with Tooten and Duncan just in behind, less than a tenth separating them. Across the line they go now, and it looks like at the very front still as they go across the line with 12 minutes and 3 seconds. Let's see who is out at the front. Into the middle section of the circuit now, into Ashby once again. Wesley Swain who leads the way. Connor Duncan in second position with the GP plated, Oscar Tooten in third, and Zach Drummond in the Synergy Race team. He's in fourth place at the moment, or was in fourth at the start of this race anyway. It's all so close between these Honda Cadet drivers. Often do struggle to get away from one another, even if that kart is set up to perfection. The low power means you are able to often cling onto your opponents and prevent them from escaping up the road. But a real race in prospect here. We're not even a third of the way through. We've already seen a three-way battle, almost a three-way tie as they went across the line a few laps prior. Kart is dragged off safely now by the ever-efficient marshals. As up to the Christmas corner they go once again. It's their final race of the 2019 season for each of these young drivers. As young as 8, some of these drivers coming up through the ranks with hopes of being the next Lance Stroll, etc. Wesley Swain currently leading the way with teammate Heinz Racing. Connor Duncan, the O plate, he's in second place as they all head into the boot, and it just seems they're getting even more bunched up, if anything. Moves up into third though, that's Ethan Simmons on Oscar Tooten. Didn't have the greatest start, Ethan Simmons, getting wrapped up in that incident just after Ashby on lap 1, and now is making significant progress as the kart goes onto the grass, but fortunately manages to save it. That could have been very dramatic there, heading down towards the first couple of corners. Matt just on the outside coming into Oblivion, who seems to have lived up to his name on a number of occasions. This deadly first corner, they come down at some velocity, and into Ashby once again. The top 3 have pulled away slightly from fourth placed Jack Hobson, who's managed to climb 5 positions, started 9th on the grid, but has managed to climb all the way up to 4th in not a huge amount of time. So a great start from him. Let's see if he can push on now and really begin to challenge the top 3. Ethan Simmons is at the back of that top 3. He started, of course, at the very front on row 1, so he'll be looking to try and get back into those positions. Swain and Duncan separate him from that honour. There's less than 10 minutes to go now. Still a fair amount of time, but actually there could be some changes in the championship table. If things stay as they are, Ethan Simmons will be overtaking Hobson in the championship table, with Hobson was ahead. He was in 4th place in the championship coming into round 11, but permutations of that earlier round and this one that we're currently seeing means that at the moment Simmons will be taking the 4th place in the championship. Connor Duncan's pretty much wrapped up his 3rd place in the championship already. It's all so close though, going around the middle section of the circuit as they begin their 3rd sector. Once again, the huge stream of cars. There's almost nothing separating first all the way back to around 20th place. There's just nothing. It is indeed 20th place. I made that as an approximation, but Aston Sharp in 20th is still so close to the rest of the pack. There's almost nothing to break them off whatsoever. Across the line they go then. There's just over 8 minutes and 20 seconds left on the clock into Christmas corner, and Christmas may well be coming early for Wesley Swain if things stay as they are. Was rather gifted that race lead. Not that he hasn't had to work hard for it, but was certainly helped by that incident which Simmons was wrapped up in. But Simmons is now the driver who's really putting pressure on the back of Swain's kart as they head into this tricky left-hander here. Ozies onto this back straight, which approaches the boot but goes up the inside as Ethan Simmons to take the race lead, and Simmons reclaims what was once his and back into the race lead. Wesley Swain pushed down to second place, and Simmons now has several minutes of defending to potentially have to do, with Connor Duncan in third, the Heinz Racing driver. A couple of other Heinz Racing drivers are out there as well, one of them being Wesley Swain, so they definitely won't want to wrap up each other in their incidents. Ian Simmons, though, he leads the way, and it's a three-way battle going into Ashby, heading towards these middle corners, central to this track really, which winds up the hill before descending now, which is what they've been doing for the past few seconds. Onto the back straight once more, and into the boot, penultimate corner of this 1100 metre course. And we could almost see a six-way battle for the lead here. Fifth and sixth are really beginning to close in, and Oscar Tewton and Jack Hobson, they are both looking to try and turn this four-way battle for the lead into a six-way one. At the moment, the top three, though, Simmons, Swain and Duncan, just think with the pace that Ethan Simmons has had to be able to close in on Swain to get ahead into the lead, and maybe he'd be able to pull away, but alas, that is not the case. So often we see in Honda Cadets, it's so difficult to escape up the road, and we are seeing a very intriguing battle once more. Nothing to give, even a tiny mistake will lead to surely the loss of a position. Lots of the drivers opting to duck their heads, and frankly optimum aerodynamics will certainly help in these lower powered karts, but these six karts nearly nose to tail as they head across the line. The race leader Ethan Simmons ahead of Wesley Swain, Connor Duncan and Jaden Gregg, Oscar Tewton and Jack Hobson are the remainder of the drivers. Just over 5 minutes and 40 seconds left as they go up to Christmas corner, and there's a few changes in position there. I think that actually dropped down the order was the race leader Ethan Simmons. As they head into Ashby, we'll get more of a confirmation of that. They all just about managed to filter through. Don't want this one to get messy. Could end up with a few karts out of the running otherwise, but it seems that they're all just about making their way around at the moment into Osiers once more and onto the back straight. Who have we got in the race lead now? I think it might be the number 92 of Wesley Swain who's been able to take it back. We're just absolutely swamped by everyone. Ethan Simmons, as he was overtaken there at the Christmas corner, which seems to be one of the more favourable places to make an overtaking manoeuvre, and has fallen down the order all the way to 6th, Ethan Simmons. So I mentioned he was swamped. Didn't realise admittedly he was that much swamped. But indeed he does drop down 5 positions, and won't be too happy about that one. Despite that, though, he will still be moving up to 4th in the championship if things stay as they are, even with championship rival Jack Hobson overtaking him in that brutal assessment of how kart racing can sometimes be for Ethan Simmons. 1st to 6th in the blink of an eye. Round Osiers they go once more then. Race leader Wesley Swain trying to defend from Charlie Duncan now, who's having a real look in the O-plate, attempting to get past the number 92 in the remaining 4 minutes or so. Still got a fair amount of time left to try and do it, but now may be in trouble himself as goes up the inside. Jaden Gregg, that is, on him, and the number 34, he's up to 2nd place now, and that pushes Connor Duncan down into 3rd. The Heinz Racing driver moves a step further behind his teammate. That's Swain versus Duncan. Could have been a really great battle in terms of the teammate rivalry that would have been there as well, but goes out slightly wide there, Jaden Gregg, and I think that reclaiming the position there is the O-plate of Connor Duncan. Also left out to dry there on the outside as well of Ashby, which means he gets swamped, and Ethan Simmons reclaims a couple of positions and gets pushed down to 6th place now, all the way from 2nd. I think it was Jaden Gregg. Still leading the way, Wesley Swain. He doesn't have too much of a problem at the moment out on the front. Here comes the boot now. Seen several overtaking manoeuvres there as well, and we see another. I think that's Gregg reclaiming 2 positions in 2 corners. Fantastic from him. And the number 92 goes across the line. That is Wesley Swain, who continues to lead. Connor Duncan in 2nd place. And who have we got in 3rd now? It is Simmons with Gregg in 4th, Hobson 5th, and Tewton down in 6th now. Can't stop swapping around the top few, but one thing remains, and that is Wesley Swain continuing to lead. He doesn't seem to have too many problems at the front at the moment, although that could very much change with the Scot of Conor Duncan closing in, and has offered some real problems to race leaders over the course of not only this race but also the weekend as a whole. Just over 2.5 minutes remaining, and Wesley Swain, the Heinz Racing driver, has Conor Duncan, another Heinz Racing driver, right on his tail. They certainly will receive a message from the team saying something along the lines of please don't take each other out, as they head out to the pit bend and once again onto this pit straight. Final couple of minutes awaits the drivers as they head down into Crooks at the very base of the hill here at Whilton Mill, up towards Christmas Corner, and suddenly 4th, 5th and 6th have very much dropped off the leading three. Ethan Simmons in 3rd seems to have a habit of being able to drop away other drivers behind him, keep himself in a promising position while making sure he loses drivers behind him. Otherwise, he's done that on several occasions over the weekend. 1 minute and 40 seconds left on the clock, and it is still the teammates of Swain and Duncan who are battling it out at the very front. Certainly won't want to take each other out. This would be a 1-2 for Heinz Racing if things stay as they are, and Conor Duncan has got to make sure he doesn't make any too opportunistic moves. We're into the final 90 seconds of racing now. The other Heinz Racing, well, a couple other Heinz Racing drivers, Timo Jungling and Ralph Jungling, they are in 10th and 12th, so they're not doing too badly either. They're well into the top half of the grid. Bear in mind, 32 racers started this race, 32 on the same track. Fantastic to see a grid of that stature. How will this race at the very front end up? With 4th place, there's a big string of cars behind Jaden Gregg, who's currently in 4th. Oscar Tewton actually moved up into 4th. Got Greg Hobson, Ekberg, Hitter, Kukuro Yeomans and Jungling. That is Timo Jungling, who's in the top 10. Ralph Jungling is just a couple positions behind. That's a fascinating battle as well. No overtakes this last lap though. Across the line with the number 92 still leading. Wesley Swain hasn't had a win under his belt for a couple of rounds, I don't think, Wesley Swain, but could well be on course for one here. Conor Duncan, he is just 0.14 of a second behind and beginning to offer some real pressure. He's not unfamiliar to winning, Conor Duncan, and may well attempt to get past Wesley Swain in the remaining time. Not that there is much remaining time. The last lap is approaching and will be at the end of this one. Into Osiers then for the penultimate time. Onto the back straight they go. A little glance behind him from the race leader, Wesley Swain. Make sure that the drivers behind are at least controlled for the meantime. Ethan Simmons seems to be content with 3rd for now. This would still give him 4th in the championship. Very tight going into the pit bend for a number of the drivers there. Gets a bit of a gasp from the crowd, and they've turned up in reasonable numbers as well here at Whilton Mill to witness the last few rounds of the championship. There's ominous grey clouds very much forming overhead. There's no grey racing on the track. Swain versus Duncan, quite the colourful affair, especially if those two teammates were to interfere with each other's chances. It does seem like it's likely to be Wesley Swain, but what a battle that is from 4th downwards. It just doesn't seem like there's any way through. A huge group of cars goes into the side of one of them there. There's a battle in the mid-pack, almost impossible to keep on top of who's where in that particular battle. But fantastic scenes into the boot, no idea which car's going to finish ahead of who there. Out of the final bend and taking the win there. You can see how much it means to the number 92 of Wesley Swain, who beats his teammate Conor Duncan to the line. Duncan takes 2nd place with the checkered flag. What a result for Wesley Swain, with Ethan Simmons in 3rd. 4th goes to Jack Hobson. 5th, Jaden Gregg, with 6th, Ryan Ekberg. Macy Hitter 7th, who managed to climb from 17th on the grid. Oscar Tewton 8th, 9th, Timo Jungling, and 10th, Zach Drummond. But in the end, that was a huge stream of cars from 4th all the way down to 19th place, where Ralph Jungling eventually finished. And they were separated by so little, just over 2.5 seconds from that many cars. Wesley Swain, though, winning this race by 0.07 of a second, just about beating Connor Duncan, who was very much giving him a lot to think about, giving that rear bumper a bit of attention as well on that final lap. All's fair though between the two teammates, and I'm sure there'll be a handshake or two there. But Wesley Swain takes the victory after 18 laps. The Honda Cadet round 12 and indeed the 2019 championship comes to a close.
The second final for the Honda Cadets concluded with Wesley Swain taking victory over Connor Duncan and Ethan Simmons. We spoke to these three drivers to see how they thought the race went.
Race 2, we had an incident on the first lap, but we did really well to claw back to third. So overall, it's been a pretty good year, ending it on a high.
Obviously, I'd love to get the win, but I've still got a really good position in the championship, so I'm very happy with getting second in the final 2. This has given me lots of confidence, and it's my first win to be in a British Championship, and I feel confident for next year.